The next panel, therefore, is about connectedness, conversations with youth of African descent. Welcome them to the stage with the moderator, Nia Sullivan. We have Elise-Juliette. We have Sam Boateng. And the one, Sophia, is not, I know. I know. Is she here? Oh, she made it. Wonderful. Just in time. Oh, my goodness. Oh, oh. Well, the way you're dressed excuses your lateness. It excuses your lateness. Nia, take it away.
Thank you. Can you all hear me? Great. So my name is Nia Sullivan. I'm from Seattle, Washington, and I will be moderating this very important panel discussion on connectedness and how youth of African descent connect with their origin while living in Finland. So this conversation is in collaboration between Good Hair Day and Think Africa, and we're just really honored to have this conversation and talk about what inspires us, what influences us, and just to talk about how important this is to our own identities. So to introduce our panelists, we first have Aino. Am I pronouncing your name correctly? How are you doing today?
Well, I was just like in another place. Is this on? Yes. Talking about actually the same topic. So yeah, I'm sorry I'm a little bit late, but I'm doing great. It's super cold. I wasn't prepared, but other than that, I'm super grateful to be here. Yeah, it's super exciting.
We're happy to have you, and you look amazing, so we're happy to have you. And we hear that you're a culture enthusiast, so we're really excited to hear from you. And then next we have Sam, who is a talented videographer, filmmaker, photographer. How are you feeling today?
I'm pretty good, pretty good. I'm a little bit nervous. I think it's normal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pretty good and really happy to be here.
Happy, yeah. And then next we have Elise-Juliette, and we have heard her beautiful voice earlier. So how are you feeling today?
Hi, I'm feeling good, thank you. Just really excited.
So to begin this conversation, I'm interested in asking you all, how do you identify? So for example, I am from America, as I said earlier, and I identify with my culture, which is African American or Black. So I just use those pretty much interchangeably. So we can start with Aino. How do you identify?
Well, with like volunteering with Good Hair Day and living here in Helsinki, I have like heard this term Afro-Finnish, and that's definitely something I feel comfortable with. Yeah, so I would definitely identify myself as Afro-Finnish or mixed, because I am mixed with Finnish and Togolese. So yeah, I'm definitely comfortable with being mixed and Afro-Finnish.
Thank you. And Sam?
Yeah, in my case, I'm Italian born, so I identify myself as Afro-Italian. And yeah.
And then Elise?
Well, I was born here in Finland, and well, I would say that I am a Finn with African descent. So, yeah, Afro-Finn also. I could say.
It works. It's a term we all know, and it has so many meanings. So it's nice when we understand that a bit deeper.
Yeah.
So with our theme being belonging, one of our themes being belonging, it is so important to feel a sense of community. So I wanted to know from you all, where do you feel you have a sense of belonging in Finland? Or outside of Finland? You can answer however you would like. Oh, I'm sorry. Anyone can start if you feel inspired to.
Well, maybe I could start. I would definitely say with the community I have found. Actually, when I thought about this question, I kind of struggled a bit. I think belonging is something I definitely still struggle with, and I'm actively searching. For me, it's more like moments in places and time. And the first thing I think I actually thought about was home. Like I felt like I belong in my home, and I actually live in like this communal apartment situation where there's people around like all over the world. So I think I'm really comfortable, and I feel I belong in, I think, like this kind of multi cultural setting. It feels really comfortable to me. Yeah.
Would you like to go next?
Yeah, you can go. Yeah.
I, as well, struggled with this question, even though it's I had some help from my parents. As a child born here in Finland, I accept the culture from here, but I also, accept the culture of where I am from, my African heritage, So I feel that it's very important to know your roots and where you're from, where you come from, your origin, There's a certain value, there's a great value. So the question asked, where do you feel like you belong? I feel like I belong in both, because I was born here, but also I have my African heritage, and of course I belong there also, so I can't put one first, So let's say both.
Yeah.
In my case, I think I belong everywhere and I belong nowhere. um, it's really a tricky question because I think belonging is something really deep, and just few example, like if I go in between my Italian friends, for example, I'm recognized as the black person, and when you go in between your own people, you're recognized because you are born in this part of the world. You're recognized as kind of the white person. So in that case, where is your belonging? Like, where do you belong in that case? I think then that depends more from you and who you decide to have around. So in that case, I will belong where I feel home and safe.
Yeah.
So I don't think there is a specific place for that. So that's why I belong everywhere and nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that answer a lot. I actually feel I can relate to that in a way, like being African American, in Finland, I don't necessarily feel like I can relate to every American here. So yeah, this feeling of like belonging, feeling that, like a feeling embraced, but then also still feeling like this disattachment in some way, like this duality of it. I think it's really interesting to explore. Thank you. Thank you for all of your answers. And also, I just wanted to mention that we'll take questions at the end from the audience and also the members online. So just throwing that out there. If you become inspired, you can ask something. So the next question I ask is going to be a bit of a challenging one, maybe. With us coming, like having these different backgrounds, this living in this dualness, like inside, I want to know what is your journey with that, like being, I guess, like navigating your Africanness and also your Finnishness or your other identities. And yeah, if you can describe this journey and maybe even how, I guess, this journey, how do you define this journey?
Challenging.
Challenging.
Yeah, it has been challenging, but at the same time, it has been an amazing experience. I'm still young, so I still have a lot to learn. And but I say challenging because it's really challenging for a person of color to grow up in this part of the world. So you have to pass through a lot of things before you succeed. But when you start your journey, then you really start to embrace your blackness, and you really start to understand what do you want, and that as a black person you can actually succeed in this society if you work hard enough. And yeah, it's not an easy trail, but you have to go for it and just work harder than everyone else, not to show other people, but just to show to yourself that you're not defined by what other people tells you that you are, but you basically are whatever you want to be. So yeah, but it's challenging, of course, but never give up.
Yeah, thank you. Do either of you feel inspired to answer this or respond in any way?
Well, for me, definitely, yeah, I relate a lot to what Sam said. I was actually born in like the northern parts of Finland, or like more north, and yeah, it's like some of the schools I went to, I was the first black person and stuff. So navigating that with my like the African heritage was definitely something. Well, I'm pretty young still, but something I'm more proud of, I think, now than when I was younger. So when you're surrounded by all this whiteness, it becomes pretty overpowering, and a lot of us probably just want to fit in, and the ideals and the standards are well what they are, so then you're probably outside of them. But now I feel mostly just empowered, and it's really interesting, and truly really happy that there's like so much more for me to explore, in terms of my identity and the culture, and like especially now that obviously like for me it's Togolese culture, but here in Finland we get to be part of building the Afro-Finnish culture too. So that's really exciting, and the prior where I was coming from, it was a lot talk about that, like how do we capture our history and how do we like put it out there, like that we are here and this is happening now and it has been happening and we have been here for some time now. So it's really, I think, important that you recognize your history so we can build on it.
Yeah, yeah, that's really, really important. Would you like to answer?
To be honest, I think I can relate to so many. Like, I don't even have words because like you already basically said what I was thinking. But I think it's very important to know your heritage, know where you're from, protect it because it holds great value and in who you are, and to never let anyone like take that away from you because that's you. That's your identity, you know? So it's very important.
Yeah.
That's all I can add, really.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. When I think about my heritage and in terms of my journey, I often think about my ancestry and the history of the transatlantic slave trade and just everything that my ancestors had to endure. So yeah, that kind of gives me, in a way, like a sense of pride, like just knowing where I've come from and what my people have gone through, and it just encourages me to achieve greatness. So yeah, and also it inspires me in a way to not really live in the confinements of what people would think or expect from me, regardless of where I am in the world. So yeah, this is such an important thing to think about, and I think especially while we're young, you know, we have our whole lives to continue with this journey. So I don't know, like.
The amount of foreigners that we have nowadays in Finland is totally different from back then. So now is the time where we need better laws to protect all of us and to work for all of us too. So yeah, my answer would be we need to embrace more and help one another, especially too, because that's another thing that we have difficulties on succeeding in. So we need to embrace it and work together.
Yeah, this like collaboration in this way, like, I think like we're all having this African background, like on the stage at least, and like it's all very different still. But I think like this collaboration is something, while we're like being in Finland, regardless of where we are really, but especially being in Finland, like just being connected in this way is going to be very valuable. Does anyone else have an answer to how has your African heritage contribute positively or in any way to your experience? Oh no, it's the same question.
Well, I could say, how has it positively contributed? Well, I would say because of my African heritage, I am able to sing in a language, in an African language. So it's a great value, and not everyone can do it. But of course, if you give it a try, of course you can try. But as long as you know that you have your African African heritage, you can do it. You because it's part of who you are, and so that's why I feel that because I don't speak the language that I just sang. I sang Ndola Bukate. Of course, I translated it. I partially know what it means, but I don't speak the language. And because I am able to sing it is because of my African heritage. It's because, just I know where I come from. I know my origin. I just feel like it helps in a way.
Yeah, it gives you soul when you sing
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Yeah. Yes. So I'm singing to my home. I'm singing to my family, even though I was born here. But I know just enough to know that it's my home, So.
Oh, it was beautiful. You did. Yeah, I really like that because you're also able to share this to other people who maybe have never even heard the language. That might inspire people to do research or you never know how it can inspire. So
Yeah, it's a way of connecting to your African heritage, and that's my way, with singing. Because of course they tell me the history, and they can only tell me so much that I have to like experience it myself. I've been in Cameroon. I think I told this in the beginning. Maybe I didn't, but I'm a Cameroonian and a Namibian, born in Finland. So yes, knowing that it changes a lot. Well, yes. So that's my home. But I've been there when I was very little, so I know only so much. So by singing, I can express like where I'm from, where I come from, because of course I was born here in Finland, but it's my way of expressing my culture.
Thank you. Do you have any comments you'd like to add?
Yeah, like I do like for the language part, I really I feel that. For me, definitely, I don't speak my father's mother tongue, and I don't speak even French, which is the other language in Togo. So navigating the connecting part for my heritage was really rough at first. I think when I was a child, I thought it would never be possible because I can't speak the language. But now, connecting to other people living in like Finland and Helsinki, I think mainly in Helsinki, that have the heritage as well, I figured out that there's so many ways. Like for me, one thing was cooking. I started to learn how to make the foods that my father used to make me back home in Oulu, and then just sharing experiences. But I think definitely, like, if there's one thing I would like to say as like Finnish person with African heritage is the importance of language. I think a lot of maybe parents or like especially parents, I think, kind of battle with that. Is it necessary? Do you feel like it's something that the child would need? And I definitely think it's something, or I know it's like a privilege as well, definitely. Like, it's not an easy thing to do. My father tried and gave up. But like, I think going back, it's something that it enriches the experience a lot. But obviously, you can still learn a language later on too, so it's not impossible. But I like the idea that, like you said, that music is one part of it. I definitely think, and I believe a lot of people can in the same mind with me, that music is one of the parts that usually we connect to, and it's something special. And for the things that if it adds value, it definitely does. I feel like I have a much more enriched experience and much more kind of widened view of any other like cultures or situation as well. Like, I'm proud, and I like just the beauty of our culture and our heritage. Like, I'm really honored that I have it now, and like I hope that it's the same way and even more of that, like, going forward. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, well, I've been living in Finland for 2 years now. So when I think about my heritage and kind of the value that the importance of it for living in Finland, like, it's still quite new to me. But I guess, like, in the US, like, having that connection to my heritage, like, to my ancestors, it's just ingrained in everything I do. Like, in terms of activism, it's like the sole, like, force of my activism. My traditions with my family, like African American traditions, like, everything is just ingrained with how I live my life. So yeah, I think that in a way this is connected to journey and belonging and feeling connected to a community. So yeah, thank you for your responses. And then my next question is, what are your wishes for the young African community here in Finland? Would you have any advice for African youth in Finland? Let that sink in. Sam, would you like to start?
I can start.
Thank you.
Yes. So my wishes for the youth is especially for them to see people that looks like them succeeding in the industry, in any type of industry. So filmmaking in my case, singing in her case, activism in her case, and a lot of things, doctors, lawyers, politicians. Now we finally have one politician that is a person of color. We hope to have more in the future. So that's the wish that I have, for us to keep striving and keep going, so that the youth can see more of themselves in front of the screens, in my case.
Yeah, representation, I mean, it's major. It's really important. Is anyone wanting to go next? Elise?
I can say something. Well, I encourage the youths, everyone, to stay connected to your heritage, African heritage, and your heritage, because it's a great value and you have to protect it. To have that, it's not easy. I mean, it's not easy to come by. So just protect it. And if you strongly believe, if you have a talent, something that you are very passionate about, stay true to it. Do it, no matter what anyone says. People may put you down. People may say things, criticize you for you wanting to do something that you're very passionate about, but don't listen, because and then you just put yourself down. You just start believing in those lies that people tell you, but don't listen, because you know yourself that you're good enough. You're good enough to try at least, and to succeed in what you're doing. So I feel that's my message to you.
Yeah.
Amen.
It's a good message.
Yay!
Yeah, I think when you're thinking about your own identity, especially being somewhere in Finland, you know, when we don't have a lot of representation, like maybe other indicators like are the ones that are kind of contributing to how you would view yourself. So I like what you're saying. It is so important to like let yourself be the one that decides that and to do what you want and follow your heart. So thank you. Would you like to add anything?
I don't know. Like, yeah, definitely. I agree. I don't think I have anything else. That's so important. I feel like one thing I would definitely wish is just community. Like we could reach out to everyone because like I said, I come from a like smaller, like a more of the northern parts, and the community there or the individuals are really sparse out. So especially like for my younger siblings, I wish that we have like more stable and like broader community, and we're working for that. That's why I myself did like reached out to different communities like Good Hair Day to build that for us and for the young people. But yeah, definitely that, just stay true to yourself. That's really, really important. Like, wow, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I like what you were saying earlier about like we're the ones who get to define what Afrofin means like for each of us. So yeah, I think just being your authentic self, you know, like you shape that narrative for yourself. And then I guess a follow-up question to the first thing I asked. First, I asked you all, are there places where you feel like you belong? So to counter that, I would like to know, are there places where you feel like you do not belong in Finland? Outside. It's really cold, so.
You mean like city-wise, like in general?
I guess in general, like, yeah, wherever you feel inspired to answer.
Yeah, me personally, sometimes I feel like I don't want to go outside the barrier of Uzima, for example. Well, I think I don't need to explain the reason why, but probably something that I need to deal with is not based on the other people. But yeah, if I have to say something about not belonging, I think outside from Uzima, sometimes I have difficulties on going. Yeah.
What can I add? Well, this is a very tricky question because most of us spend a lot of time trying to fit in, trying to belong. So now if you were to ask a question, just like where do you think you don't belong, it's, I guess it comes from experience, you could say. Because you can't exactly be sure if you haven't like done it before or been there before, or you know. So it's quite difficult to say per se on like where you belong, where you don't think you belong, where you know. So I don't think I'm that experienced to say that I don't belong in some area, because I spend most of my time. I live here in Uusimaa, and I spend most of my time trying to belong, trying to fit in. So I'm still trying to see where my place is, where I belong, you know, because my journey has just started and I'm just beginning to see things, and you know, so I can't exactly say where I don't belong because I haven't experienced that part of this sort of publicity. So yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And like obviously, like I could list things or places where I didn't feel like I belonged, but that would be a long list. And I don't know. It's not even that simple. It could be a place that one time I feel I did belong, and then now I don't feel like that. So I remember one of our panels in our previous events. There was a panelist called Angel, and they said that it's about choosing to belong to. And that's something that really, like, I remember, and that was something I really took to heart, that a lot of times if we concentrate on the other people and they kind of ask for permission for a lot of things, we're probably never gonna feel, especially like in here, that everyone is gonna accept us, that everyone is gonna welcome us. And it's more about choosing the spaces we want to belong in, and then choosing that we are gonna belong there and working for it. And there are spaces that maybe, yeah, you can choose you don't want to belong into either. So for me, I think, yeah, that's like something I'm definitely working on still. And like what Sam said, like sometimes you get like, yeah, I have the same feeling. Like when I go back home now, I can feel the stares like more than when I did when I lived there. I was born there, but now because I lived in Helsinki and you don't get that. So going back to that set is like really shocking. But again, like you have to come back to that, like, okay, I choose and I know myself where I belong and where I'm supposed to be, and concentrate on that, I think. Yeah,
that's a really good answer. Yeah, I definitely agree. Like when I first moved here, I honestly didn't really feel like I belonged anywhere. Like it was hard for me to just meet people, like especially in the times of COVID and everything. But yeah, I kind of had this feeling like I just need to, yeah, just like what you were saying, like choose where I want to belong and then work towards that. And I think that involves like, I guess like trust building in a way as well. So yeah, but that's all, it's all connected to how we make our community. So yeah, there are definitely spaces where I think like just being excluded is maybe like perpetuated by the people of those spaces. So that definitely exists. But I like this narrative of like controlling and working for what we can at least control. Yes. Can I ask a question? Yeah, actually, this is now the time where we can move on to audience questions, whether you're live here or online. So we can start with you.
Thank you very much for the insightful conversation and dialogue. What I was thinking about when you spoke is this question of integration. Now, my question is, think of integration with this analogy that it's a rainbow, or a rainbow, and every individual color, or no individual color on the rainbow is the rainbow, right? It is all of the colors that make the rainbow. So in that context, I want you to think of this question of integration. You're talking about belonging or where you don't belong. How do you find yourself integrated in terms of your identity? Because you have Afrophane, you got a Fane with African descent, you got a born in Italy and African or black. Now, those are identity issues. And they're mental, they're physical, right? When you think of the rainbow in your identity settings, are you one color in the rainbow, or are you all the colors of the rainbow? Because we're looking at belonging, feeling, and identity. I know people will describe you as what you are, but that doesn't make you. So how do you see yourself in the context of the rainbow and the colors of the rainbow with identity? Because I thought one of the things I was missing is the fact that if you want to be fluid, that you belong there and belong there, it's quite problematic. And we're going to make choices of where you want to fit or what you want to be. That's also problematic, very subjective. All right? This is complex for young minds, but I think I want you to ponder about that.
I cannot start here.
How is identity related to your integration? Because you're talking about belonging.
I think you were asking, the question was what color of the rainbow are
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Ooh. Can I choose? Well, I don't know if I'm answering this question. Yeah, okay. But I think in like talking about identity and talking about these issues, I don't know, like I can tell you this. I think about myself as quite spiritual person. And I find sometimes with this conversation we mix up like spiritual in identity and like physical, like things like racial and things of that sort. And for me, like obviously, like my spiritual side, I can talk about us being one with everyone and energies and stuff like that, which is really true to me. But then I think it's a different conversation talking about like my identity as like Finnish person and like as a black person, because sometimes when we mix those things up, and there's I think the time and space to mix those things up too. But generally speaking, I feel like it undermines both of them. So talking about the rainbow, yeah, definitely there is a rainbow. But I think when we come to this space and when we talk about these questions, we're basically talking about the one part of the rainbow, right? But I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily either, because the rainbow, if it was one color, it wouldn't be a rainbow. The colors are there for a reason to talk about.
Unless someone else wanted to answer that,
In my case, I think she said everything.
then we can take the next question. And thank you for your question also.
By the way, you have very good answers. We're talking about connectedness, but I wanted to ask, what do you think about going back to the motherland in general? What do you see value in it? And if you see, what value?
Do you mean forever, for good, or?
Not, no, because it doesn't, you can always travel.
Sorry. Sorry, I didn't hear.
You can always travel. It's not a jail. But like it can be even like being there for 11 months and 1 month somewhere else, or it can be like traveling for, let's say, but going back. It can be.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, yes. I've been.
Orderly, so that they don't get confused. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Or do you have something to say for this one?
I mean, I can say shortly to answer your question. If I were to go back to my motherland, I've been to Cameroon and Namibia, but when I was very, very small. So I don't know enough. Of course, my parents tell me stories. They tell me how amazing Africa is. I'm saying Africa because both of them. Yes. So it's very beautiful. But they also tell me about the problems that go around in Africa. And it's all news to me. It all comes as, information about about Africa, where I come from. So if you were to ask me if I would go back to my motherland, yes, I can travel there, but if we were talking in terms of me staying there, I would be hesitant because I do not know enough to go back. So that would be a bit of, not troubling, but it would be a topic to think about. So yes, of course, I would go back there to see my family. I know to see family, friends, everyone that I've known since I was small. I may not remember them as old as I am right now, but still, I know that there is family, I know that there is friends, so of course, I can go there and travel without hesitation. But to stay there, it's a topic to discuss.
I like that question a lot because for a lot of African Americans, we don't know we have our history. We have our history. I don't want to put that narrative out there that we don't, but to think about where exactly in Africa we would be from. Most of us, we don't know. So, and most African Americans or people of color in general in the U.S. don't even get the chance to travel outside of the U.S. So, when I graduated from my undergrad, I was able to live in a few countries in South Africa for a while, and then in Lesotho, and then finally in Sierra Leone. And I spent 2 years, over 2 years, living in Sierra Leone, and it was just such an amazing experience being there. And I was inspired after that, like to actually find out like where I'm from, and then later to find out that I'm part Sierra Leonean, mostly Nigerian, but yeah. But to still like to find out that that's where my ancestry is from, and to be there on the soil, you know, like that was just such a meaningful experience that I really want for like many more African Americans to have. So I think like there's so much value to going back, regardless if you're from the States or, you know, wherever else in the world. Like if you're from the diaspora, I think it is really meaningful and significant to go back, even if just to visit, you know. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And we have audience online as well watching, and we have comments here. So somebody's saying here, Naudi Kabon is saying, nice conversation, this based on identity, fantastic how it's possible to see much interpretations of it. So as you've been talking about the fact that, I liked your statement, Elise, you said that your African heritage gives you the power to perform, period. So, yeah, so that is something. So the online audience is also watching, and they're appreciating this panel so much in terms of having this conversation. What I wanted also to ask, maybe or just a wonderment, would be that you're born here. I've heard stories. When I came to Finland, I lived in Varsinaisuomi, so Turku, Salo area. And one of the issues when I met young Africans of African descent, young people who were either born here or came as children, was that the feeling of exclusion starts quite early. So you start to notice, because your parents don't have these discussions with you mostly because, you know, our African parents are like, you know, get out of the house and deal with it. But you start to, so for example, a simple thing like a class is having a birthday party for one of their classmates, and you are not invited. Things like that. How did this kind of otherness, because it happens, we have to accept it, that is true, it happens, you look different, and therefore there is a bit of ambiguity on how to handle you, you know, do we say, hey, good morning, or do we just pass you by, or, you know, what happens there? How did you guys sort of deal with that, and did your parents have these conversations with you as kids? Living in Europe, Italy, we have Finland as well, northern Finland. Did your parents have these conversations with you as children?
Yes. We talked about this a lot when I was smaller. Going to school, of course, there would be days when there would be, what is it? We would discuss, we are separated into groups, and sometimes the teacher doesn't choose like who goes in which group, so we kind of have to think ourselves, who do we want in which group, you know? So of course, yes, I've been excluded from these groups, and when I was smaller, I never thought I was different. I spoke the language, I knew these people, but for some reason, they've excluded me. Why is it like this? And, you know, I talked to my mom about this. First, I talked with my teacher, and, you know, they talked with the other kids that, why have you excluded this person? And they never said why exactly. Of course, they said, oh, we just don't want her. But I know that there was a stronger reason why they didn't want me, even though they were kids, but they still have a meaning in why they didn't want me in their group. So I talked with my teacher. Of course, the teacher said, just go in this group for now. But I could see in those other kids' faces that they didn't want me in their group. So I felt really sad and confused. So I went to my mom, and I talked about this with my mom, and we talked about this, and she said, you know, it's people people say things, they do things with just, all she said was just, don't give up, because there are days that are going to be bad. They are going to be bad. Some days are going to be good. Today seemed like it was a bad day. Just know there are going to be better days. Just keep your head high. Whatever they say, don't listen. Don't listen, period. Because it's not important what they think. You know, so it's a strong lesson what my mom really told me, because she told me not to listen to them. And that's the first lesson that I took from her, because anything negative that what these kids said, I never listened. Of course, in the beginning, yes, I listened. And I felt really, really bad. I was sad. I ate alone. I sat alone. But then, you know, just this motivational speech, this pep talk I talked with my parents, you know, it really helped me, because, you know, I am different. They helped me understand that I am different. And people may not always accept me as for who I am, but it is important for me to know who I am and what I think of myself. And I should never put myself down for other people's, just for them to say that, oh, we don't like you, you are this, you are that. Don't listen. Because that's all I can say, because, you know,
Thank you so much. And
we're just kids.
And look at you now. You are the voice of Finland because of what your parents told you. Thank you so much for that answer.
10 minutes. Do we have any other questions from online? Or okay.
Oh, okay. So we have so I can take all 14 minutes. Okay. Yeah, I'll keep it down to 2. So, I mean, thanks for your thoughts. And it's not really a question, but I mean, I've been giving thoughts to this as well, of identity. And I'm like, have we asked ourselves, like, what's the price to pay, I mean, for being here in Finland, for living in your country and coming here? Maybe all these things we've talked about is a price to pay. I mean, if you take an example of a business person, I mean, there is a delayed gratification. Mm-hmm. You don't do all these other things. You live below your means because you're trying to build generational wealth. There's a price you have to pay. It's not good. Nobody likes it. But we ask the question differently, then the answers we'll get would be different. And then we'll set ourselves on a different path. Because sometimes we focus too much on the identity that it hinders our progress. I mean, if you take an example of the Chinese, of the Arabs, and of people, of the Jews, when they're in a different setting, they give themselves a different narrative. They tell themselves a different story. I mean, coming back to the Jews, for example, wherever they are, I mean, they just put aside, take, for example, the banking sector. They put it aside, and they just leverage their community, the banking within the community, and then they build their own nadir, and money flows within one another. So sometimes maybe we just have to think about what is it we can create, how we can set up our own table, and then we can move forward. Because the moment the Finnish society sees what is it we're bringing to the table, they'll be forced to come and negotiate, and that's a better position to be in. So sometimes we just have to have faith in ourselves. And faith, I like to draw on the words from Nelson Mandela, faith meaning, like, you can see the invisible, believe in the impossible, and trust in the unknown. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was a really good point.
Back to you, Nia.
Hey, hi. Yes, so my question was actually, I think Nia asked, what advice would you give to other youth? But what advice would you give to parents who are raising children who are mixed? This can be in terms of how do we raise them to connect more with their African culture? How do we raise them to be more in the Finnish society? Languages that we teach them, or exposure to different communities. What advice would you give to parents to help our children navigate this better?
I don't know if I'm supposed to answer.
All of you.
No, but you can start. sorry, but I just no. Thank you.
Well, well, one thing that I can say on that, for what my mom did for me at least, is to teach your children the culture. Like since they are like this, I speak my native language fluently. I have been there many times, and I wasn't born there. And every time that people hear me talking, speaking in my own native language, they are like, "Do you speak Tree?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Wow, like what is the weird thing in it? And I'm like, so. But yeah, I think it's to teach your kids the native language.
Yeah, definitely, I agree on that. And like, I think a lot of times, and I don't like, it's totally understandable that we stress about the Finnish part of it. But I think for kids especially, the Finnish part, if you're living in Finland, will come naturally. You don't have to actually worry about that. Kids learn so quickly. And the Finnish culture is really immersive. Like in school, it's a small country and really small like cultural like setting too. So I think it's way more important to just teach your stuff from your homeland, and like, and they will remember. And even for me, like I didn't have that much, but there's still things I remember, like the food and like how we eat and this small stuff, like my jacket my aunt made me from Togo, like little stuff, but it makes me so happy and it makes me feel connected. And those things, yeah, like are priceless, definitely.
Do you have anything you would like to add?
No, actually, my mom answered the question for me.
She said.
Oh, she said you don't have to answer. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, can we hear from you?
Yeah, Mama.
Oh, wow.
Hello. Thank you. Actually, that question is, I think, is a little bit difficult for Elise to answer. As you can see, Elise, when she was on The Voice, she was 16 years old. She's just 17, and her journey just started, and she haven't experienced much. She's learning. And any question what you're posing on her, I think we know maybe it's better just to teach her. And she's coming from two background African. The mom, I'm from Namibia. The dad is from Cameroon. She's rich in that it take much time. It depends on her where she can. It's quite a little bit for her. Sometimes it's difficult to choose one side because she has to focus on. You have to focus on African culture, on Cameroon culture and Namibian culture. On the other hand, it's Finnish culture. It's quite too much for her. I think in that, she's learning. She has a long way to learn. So let's not really put too much question, I think. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, do we have another question from the audience or online? Comment.
We can take one more question for the audience, please.
We can do.
Okay, mine is actually something I've been wondering about, like in school, and we're 7 in class. I don't like the word color, but I would use it all the same. We have 2 of similar colors, and it's good for me, we have 3 different colors presenting. She's fairer, she's a little fair, he's dark. And most times when we have to do a group seminar, they tend to try to pair us in 2s. With or without my consent, they just said, you, together, because we're blacks. And I actually prefer to work with a Pakistani. We do really good work together. And one of the lecturers, a professor, just came and did the same, and I stood and said, no, I think I should choose who I want to work with. He said, why? You're blacks, you're together, and you're not sisters. And the funny thing is, I am the girl he's talking about, we are opposites. we don't work together at all. So my question, or maybe if someone could help me understand, not necessarily the panel, but what defines one as black? Yes. He looks at me and he calls me black. Because she's black, we should work together. He defines me by my skin, right? Not by what I have to give. He hasn't even heard me talk. He hasn't had me write. He assumes. But I personally, I am black by origin. I'm a Nigerian. I would always be. But that doesn't define what I can do. It doesn't define how fast I can go. It doesn't define the value I can bring. So maybe in our cases, what do we really say to those that look at you? Like we have this thing in Thailand, we walk by and you see someone of color and we nod and smile. Like, hello. Like, hello. And you see someone who is fair and you just keep a straight face. Why? Like, what makes us black?
I don't want to... hey, guys, okay. All right. Let's just take a step back. So we have a panel of youth here today. And we don't wanna snatch the moment from them. The question that you're asking probably needs another Think Africa week. It's very multifaceted that if we start having it here today. So if the panel can answer that question, I would give it back to Nia to ask the panel. But if we bring it back to the audience, we will snatch what we came here to do. We came to talk about the youth African descent living in Finland. So let's try to keep that straight. So is there anybody in the panel who will want to answer that question based on your experience here?
Does anyone have an answer? Okay, do we have another question from the audience? Okay.
What is your favorite artist at the moment?
Oh, I'm sorry, but you can't have just one artist.
I have many. So I can't.
First person who comes to mind. They're all, they're all amazing.
Brand Fires. But Charlotte Dipanda. I have many, but she's one of the many.
Well, mine is not a famous painter. His name is Seikko, and he's actually Finnish. Well, he wasn't born in Finland, but he's Finnish for me. And he's an amazing painter, and I love his work. So for me, in this moment at least, when you asked the question, it was the first thing that came in my mind.
Wow. Actually, I'm really bad with names. So I have like pictures coming through my head. So I would like to hear more from yours so I can write them down. But definitely I'm always searching like artists in Finland and definitely worldwide. Now I'm enjoying more like paintings. So I've been like looking up like some London, like London-based painters. But yeah, I'm again terrible with names. But there is so many cool ones.
All right. Sorry, we cannot take. We are over the hour. So we will have this discussion more. This is what Think Africa is here all about. That we have these identity conversations, and we're talking about different colors. One of the audience talked about the rainbow and what does it mean. Are you part of the color? Are you part of the rainbow? Is the rainbow part of you, right? Very confusing, but very important question. Nia, I'll get it back to you to close the panel.
Thank you. So I just wanted to thank you all so much. I think that this helped to make such a meaningful conversation about how we feel connected, sense of belonging, and overall just making our community stronger. So thank you so much. Big round of applause.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you to you. Yes. And I'm sure the crowd can say that our favorite artist is who? Elise, isn't it? Yes.